Good Erev Shabbos, Parshat Tazria Metzora 5780. About 18 years ago, there was an Army Ranger from Montana by the name of Private First Class Christopher Stonesfer. At the age of 28, he died tragically when his Black Hawk crashed into the Afghan mountains during a dust storm. A number of years later, two Montanans went around parading as if they were Army veterans, pretending to be veterans of the Afghan war. When their lie was discovered, when the truth was uncovered, there was a creative judge at the time by the name of Greg Pinsky, district judge of Cascade County, who decided to punish these two individuals in an unusual fashion. Number one, they would have a prison sentence. Number two, they would have to compose the obituary of Christopher Stonesfer, as well as 39 other veterans who lost their Montanans who lost their lives in the Afghan war while serving their country. But in addition to composing these obituaries, they had a very unique sentence, a final condition which, if fulfilled, would allow them to achieve parole halfway through their sentence. They would have to wear placards on Memorial Day and Veterans Day outside of the Montana Veterans Memorial. The placards would read on a sign prominently the following words: "I am a liar. I am not a veteran. I stole valor. I have dishonored all veterans." This final punitive measure is jarring. It seems excessive and embarrassing, the public shaming, the tarring and the feathering, but it is absolutely biblical in origin. In fact, I think Judge Pinsky must have been thinking about something from our Parsha. The Metzora, the afflicted leper, must endure a number of painstaking measures to remedy him or herself from the medical condition with which they are suffering. But there is one step in the purification process that is excessive, it is extreme. A punitive measure that is so beyond the medical and the psychological. The Metzora must declare publicly that he or she is impure. Hatzaru asher bo hanega begadav yufrumim. Clothing have to be torn. Rosho yeh parua. Their head has to be left bare. Al safam ya'ateh. They shall cover up their upper lip. And lastly, v'tamei tamei yikra. They must call out, "I am tamei, for all to hear." This is the first placard that the Metzora, who seemingly didn't do anything wrong, has to walk around with a sign saying, "I am diseased. I am a Metzora. I am a leper. Look at me." Why go through this public shaming? Why must we mandate such an odd and embarrassing behavior for a person who is already suffering so excessively and so extremely? I think the answer may be understood in two different approaches that we have within our tradition. Rashi suggests on the Chumash, "Mashmiya shehu tamea v'yifreshu mimena." The Metzora has to call out that he is tamei, that he is impure, so that other people don't receive this contamination, this very contagious and strong viral shedding disease that can easily be caught if you stand within 6 feet or 10 feet from the Metzora. We know a lot about contagious diseases these days. And I dare say most rabbis are going to use this weekend to talk about the quarantining of the Metzora and its relevance to the mandated social distancing that we must endure these days. That obvious connection does not need to be belabored. But it's the second approach that I want to share with you, which I think has a profound message and bears further investigation. The Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Samach Zayin Amud Aleph, tells us that there is another purpose in declaring publicly, "Tamei, tamei yikra," I am impure, and wearing that placard publicly for all to see and hear. The purpose, says the Gemara, "Tzarich lehodia tsa'aro lerabim." You have to inform other people that you are suffering. V'rabim yivakshu alav rachamim. You have to tell others that you are suffering so others can beseech the Almighty to intervene, to provide a remedy, to provide a cure, so that others daven for you. You have to tell other people to care, that you are suffering. This has nothing to do with public health, with epidemiology, with the treatment of infectious diseases, with risk of infection. Instead, it's about identifying and caring for the physical and spiritual needs of the Metzora. No doubt, the tendency of a Metzora or anyone afflicted is to withhold how they're feeling, to not tell other people that they are suffering with the affliction. Perhaps they're ashamed. Perhaps they believe it connotes some sort of sin they may have performed. Perhaps they feel that out of a misplaced sense of humility, they don't wish to be a burden to other people, to family members, to community members. But by not being honest and open about their condition, the Metzora risks a terrible problem. For the Metzora will not receive love that is desperately needed, support that is desperately needed, if they don't tell others that they are suffering. And additionally, you create a culture in which it is acceptable and encouraged to be open and honest and ask for help. The secondary issue which arises when we are reluctant to disclose our suffering to others is that so often we deny ourselves an opportunity to receive much needed helping hand in the first place, and then later reserve the right to complain that we didn't receive that very needed assistance. We never told anyone we were sick. We never told anyone we were sad or suffering. We never reached out to the world because we were embarrassed or too proud or thought that it made us into a martyr. And then afterwards we said, hey, why didn't you call? Why didn't you write to me? You didn't pick up the phone? You didn't check in on me? Nobody wrote a check, but we never told anyone when we needed them. We didn't identify, we didn't articulate our needs in the public sphere, and doing so is human. Doing so doesn't diminish you in any way. Rav Soloveitchik, in his essay Redemption, Prayer, and Talmud Torah, an essay which is based on a speech given in 1973 in the University of Pennsylvania, notes something profound about the redemptive process for the Jewish people, the Hebrew slaves in Egypt. He says that the first step in their redemption was to identify a need awareness. Vatal shavasam el Elohim min ha'avodah, that the moment they cried out of a sense of need, and a sense of urgency, and identified the fact that they were desperate, that they needed help, at that moment, the release from bondage began. Why were they silent, writes the Rav, during the many years of slavery that preceded Moses' appearance? They lacked the need awareness. They experienced no need, whether for freedom, for dignity, or for painless existence. And if you don't do that, if you don't have a need awareness, you are insensitive to pain. You are insensitive to the human dynamic. We're not martyrs, and therefore we remain silent. We remain silent because we don't know how to ask for help. We don't know that asking for help makes us human. It is that which redeems us from solitude, from pain, from suffering. In our current period of isolation, it can prove difficult to tell whether someone's in need. We don't see them. We don't know about their appearance, what kinds of needs they have, what kinds of needs we have. It's not a matter of corona etiquette alone. This will hold true long after this pandemic subsides, God willing, which will happen soon. But we mustn't stand on ceremony and wait for the outreach of some other benevolent person who has to guess how we're feeling. If we don't ask for help, if we don't encourage our children and our friends and our elderly and parents to come forward with their needs, then we won't know. And you'll be amazed how much people want to help, how little they view it as a burden. They're waiting to do a favor. They're in sheltering in place and they feel irrelevant. They're looking, they're searching, they're yearning for meaningful things to do to support others, to add purpose to their lives. We are about to begin what we call the Israel season, on the Jewish calendar. Yom HaZikaron, Yom haatzmaut, next week, Yom Yerushalayim, around the corner. Israel has long been the Metzora of the world. Israel stands alone in the UN against reprobate nations that dare censor her. She stands alone in its wars against various enemies and against all odds. Many Jews in the diaspora have long found purpose in political advocacy on behalf of Israel, that I could support Israel, that I could advocate for its institutions, for its citizens. But recent events have reversed that perception. Israel has fared much better than many other countries in the world, including the United States, in managing the corona epidemic, in dealing with the medical, the psychological, and the financial implications expeditiously, and with that Israeli resilience and chutzpah that we know and love. Israel is no longer the Nebuch country that needs us. For years, we've been saying that we take access to Israel for granted because we could theoretically hop on an airplane anytime we like and visit. We could move there if we wanted. But currently, those doors are closed. Currently, because of the pandemic, the opportunity to access Israel is exceedingly limited. And as we find ourselves outside of the encampment, chutz min hamachaneh, as lepers, denied access to our beloved Israeli borders, we need to articulate our needs. We need to get up there and wear a placard and say that we need Israel in our lives. We want our homeland. Now is not the time to be silent or ashamed of our vulnerability, of our spiritual affliction. As the Rav expressed, redemption can only be visited upon those who are bold enough to admit that they are in need. May we fulfill the comforting words of the verse in Yeshayahu, Dabru alev Yerushalayim v'kiru eleh. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem, declare to her, call out to her, and may we experience a hasty and complete relief to our crisis. May the ultimate purifier, the Metaher HaKadosh Baruch Hu, declare fit us to return back to our camp and back to our home, Eretz Yisrael, once again.